That was a quick break. Welcome back. This is twitch.tv/Nick Tanella. We're at the Wednesday Night Fights at the Santa Ana Arena at the eSports Arena in Santa Ana, California. Guys, I'm Dr. Stance. With me is PaulB.
How's it going, guys?
PaulB, thank you so
man,
much.
nice to meet you.
Welcome. Yeah, and this is the first time we've actually met.
Yeah, I've seen you over here, but we have actually not spoken. So
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for being on the show. Guys, so you're into many other fighting games, even before Street Fighter. You're a KI guy originally, right?
Originally, yeah. But I mean, I've been playing games for a long time. So I mean, kind of like you said, like I've been playing games since like Street Fighter 2 on Super. Actually, since the arcades. Actually, I used to play that game in the arcade during like the golden era of arcade when it was like Street Fighter 2, and then when you lost it, you'd go put your coin up on like MK2, and when you lost it, you go put up your coin on KI. So that's like, I'm old school. That's where I come
that's like
from.
the last wave of like the big bubble of arcades.
Yeah,
I remember that well. I think we're about the same age.
It sounds like it.
Probably.
If we experienced that, we probably
something. Yeah, if we played Street Fighter 2 in the arcades together.
Yep.
So that's incredible. Okay, so given your past, your eclectic past, when did you feel the hunger start? Because I mean, you're out here. You're competing. When did you start feeling that bubble up inside you?
It's interesting. I've always I've played a bunch of different genres too. So like I was in a top UT 2004 team. That's like 10 years ago now. So that was a long time ago. And after that, I played StarCraft pretty seriously online.
Oh yeah, so we really were. You were just smattering everywhere.
Yeah, I was always just I was always very competitive, and sports weren't my avenue for that. It was more like games. So, you know, StarCraft is really big for me. UT 2004 is big for me. So I've always had that competitive drive. Yeah. It's just that the games I've played, I didn't ever necessarily have like an outlet for like official competition. Okay. So like StarCraft 2 had the ladder. You go online. That was really good, and it was really hard to be good at that game. And then UT 2004 was kind of always like a dead game. And then with KI, you know, I started playing that game. I almost didn't buy an Xbox. I walked by a Microsoft store one day and just played it. I'm like, oh, I heard this is coming out. Let me check it out. At the time, I was playing Street Fighter Cross Tekken online on PC. And I was like one of two guys that ever played it, and I would just wait online for like 20 minutes at a time.
You mean you were the one of the two people playing on PC?
Yeah, exactly. And this was like a year after it had already died on every other console, so it was a disaster. But I loved that game. So then I'm like, all right, let me just try this KI thing. And the thing about KI is the netcode was so good that I could just keep playing, right? And for me, it's like when I lose, I'm like, man, that guy sucks. I need to beat that guy. I'm going to figure out how to beat that guy. And then I just grind until I figured out how to do it. So the good thing about KI is you just jump right back in, and it's good enough online that you can actually learn. So it's not like it's super laggy. I'm not really learning how to play the game. I'm just learning how to do gimmicks online that work. And
you're actually getting something of a reasonable reaction speed, like all those muscles.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Worked on.
Like it works in that game. Being good online is the same thing as being good offline. Right. So everything translated. So one day I realized there was like a local scene, like an FGC scene, just through some random Facebook encounter. I'm like, yeah, let me see if I'm any good at this game. And I ended up placing like second and first in very local competitions in Boston. And KI was always kind of a small game. So from that point, I was like, oh, let me try to go to a major tournament. You know, I met a guy who's like, you know, there are all these tournaments that happen here and there. I had never even heard about the FGC. I was 2 years ago, I had no idea. So I traveled. I think my first tournament was East Coast Throwdown 2014. And I got 9th place, so it was like my first major tournament. And I'm like, wow, that seems like if I keep practicing and grinding the game and learning about the game had only been out for 2 months at that point. I'm like, I'll probably be decent. And then the second major I went to was the second major I went to was ECT. The first one was Winter Brawl, and I got 5th place. And I beat Chris G in pools. So I was like, all right, I guess I should probably keep playing this game.
I'm okay. I'm all right at this game.
Yeah, and then from there, you know, I went on to be a pretty decent KI player, and now I'm kind of like really obsessed with Street Fighter 5.
I've heard your name already. I think you know, not to promote too many YouTube channels out there, but I think during one of the betas, Ultra David.
Oh, okay, yeah. He put a video up there of me playing Karen against his Dalsman Fong, I think.
It was specifically mentioning you as one of the best Karens.
Yeah, I mean, I think what he meant is one of the best Karens he had run into so far
online. Yeah.
Because there are other Karens that are a lot better.
Still formidable. You know, so I want to know, what about fighting games? Like, you've come from different team-based games and different strategy games and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, what about fighting games?
Well, the thing I really like about fighting games as opposed to, I actually played a lot of Heroes of the Storm recently. I was like, I never played a MOBA, let me try that and see how that goes. And it's the same thing with 2004. I always thought there's no one to blame, right, with fighting games. It's one-on-one, and you're never held down by your team. There's always stuff you can correct, right? I mean, you could be a great player, correct yourself, watch replays, become a way better player. But if your teammates aren't doing the same thing, you're always going to be sort of anchored by them, and that's not a good thing. But even beyond that, the thing I've always loved about fighting games, even growing up with like my brother playing them, like Street Fighter on like I said, like on Super Nintendo all the time, is like it's the one-on-one mind game. And to me, I find that really interesting because I think if you study well enough how people react to things, you can sort of like draw these groups for how people will react to things. Even great players will kind of always react similarly to the same things. And then the idea is to go beyond that and see how they can change their game style to stop reacting just like a normal human being and start reacting like somebody who's thinking about the game. Just that whole back and forth situation to me is like the most fascinating thing. So that's why I keep coming back to fighting games. That's why I've always there's always been a fighting game around that I've played since I've been little. So that's really the most interesting thing.
That's awesome. All right, we got 2 more questions. Next one. I love that you've come from an older arcade scene, as have I. Early, mid, all the 90s. Let's just say all the 90s. What is your favorite memory of the 90s arcade scene? A personal memory, not something like out of a Google image search. But
No, I have a great one.
Okay.
Oh man, so we used to go, and I was like one of the best. Surprisingly, kind of ironically, I was one of the best Killer Instinct players in the arcade in my local scene. And
with the ones with the ads for the Ultra 64.
Yes, exactly, which never came out or whatever.
Never happened. Yeah.
But yeah, that. So we would go, like me and my friends. My friends weren't that great. My brother was pretty good, but I was kind of like the dude who knew how to play the game. So like, there would be a lot of betting, right? People would be putting their quarters up to bet like who's going to win. And there were these older guys. It was like a group of them, 2 or 3 of them that were always there. And they, being older, thought they had like sort of the keys to the kingdom, that they were like the dudes. And if you beat them, you were kind of lucky or whatever. So they were always getting really, really, really salty when they lost. And at one point, it would be back and forth with us for a while. And then after a while, like, they just weren't able to beat me anymore. And they started to, that's when they started to put even more money up, because there was more, they had so much to prove. They're like betting so much money. So one day they just lost. I don't even know how they fit that many quarters on the screen, because we were starting to not be able to see the game. They got so mad that, and now mind you, these guys were like 5 to 6 years older than us. They followed us into the parking lot, and they were gonna jump us. And like
for your quarters? I mean,
no, because they lost. They weren't even mad about how much money they lost. It was like the principle of the fact that they lost some money to a bunch of younger kids who weren't that good at the game just recently, and then rose up really quickly to sort of become the kings of that game in the arcade, which was like a thing back then. There was the
pride.
Dude. When you go in the arcade, remember, there's like, that's the dude nobody can beat.
Yeah.
And there was that thing. So like, I quickly became that in that game, and those dudes just weren't having it. So they followed us in the parking lot, and man, they were legit gonna like hurt us. And the only thing we could reason with them was like, dude, we're like 5 years, we're like freshmen in high school. You're really gonna do this right now? Like,
yeah, right.
And then they kind of just like made fun of us and left. But that always sticks out to me as one of the funniest like encounters I had with people just getting salty and stuff in the arcades back in the day. There was a lot of that, man. People were always acting crazy like that.
Well, that sort of was the best case scenario. Like, I beat you.
Right.
What are you gonna do about it? Nothing. Hit me. Nothing.
Right.
Pussy. Last question.
Yeah.
What race did you play in StarCraft?
Oh,
this is a question from one of the viewers.
Yes. So Spartan. Actually, the race I played was Protoss, and I kind of stuck with them from the beginning. And every time I talk about playing Protoss, people are like, of course, the OP race, because they were arguably overpowered for a while in the first expansion. So, but it wasn't that. I just picked them because I liked them in the old StarCraft from back in the day, and I just kind of kept with it. And I feel like in that game, there's so much to learn that if you try to learn multiple races too early, you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. So, yeah, Protoss was it for me.
I think that answered it. PaulB, thank you so much.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah, you're so welcome, man. So you have a Twitch, right?
Oh, yeah.
You want to plug your Twitch, please?
Yeah, so I have been streaming recently because I'm trying to, like, grind Street Fighter, and streaming and, like, actually trying to learn something is pretty hard. But if you go to twitch.tv/LLPaulB, you'll find me there. When KI Season 3 comes out, I'll be streaming that a lot. I'll also be streaming Street Fighter 5 a lot when I get a little more comfortable with it. And you can actually follow me on Twitter as well. I think it's pasted to the thing, so I don't need to talk. It's actually, my Twitch is the same thing as my Twitter, so just plug that into there.
Awesome. Well, guys,
dude,
thank
thanks
you
so much,
so
man.
much,
Appreciate
Paul,
it.
for having us, for being on the show. I'm sorry. Guys, you're watching Wednesday Night Fights on twitch.tv/NickTanella. You can also watch Wednesday Night Fights on twitch.tv/LevelUpLive. Stay tuned. And also, remember to hit follow. And when we come back, we're going to have some more interviews. All right? See ya.